At this point, the outlook for UNRWA and the millions of people it serves, not only in Gaza, but also in East Jerusalem, in the West Bank, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, is very bleak.
The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, or UNRWA, is considered a lifeline for 2 million people living in the besieged and now war-torn Gaza Strip. This crucial agency has now suffered massive funding cuts by several Western countries and their allies, including the United States. The nearly 4 months of war by Israel has left Gaza's shelled-out population at risk from famine and disease, with the medical system in collapse, schools turned into shelters, and much of the population living in tents. Amid the crisis, halting the funds of the biggest UN relief agency operating in Gaza is being seen as a death sentence for the enclave's population. So why is this UN agency under fire? Why does Israel want this aid provider out of Gaza? Created in 1949, UNRWA provides healthcare, education, and other humanitarian aid to Palestinians violently expelled from their homes by Jewish militias from areas that currently form part of Israel. It employs around 13,000 people inside Gaza and operates in the occupied West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza, as well as in Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. According to its website, the UN agency supports the relief and human development of Palestinian refugees, working in a number of areas including primary and vocational education, primary health care, relief and social services, infrastructure and camp improvement, microfinance, and emergency response. Since Israel began its offensive in response to the Hamas attacks, UNRWA has used its facilities across Gaza to shelter hundreds of thousands of displaced civilians. Israel has long accused different branches of the UN, including UNRWA, of bias and even of anti-Semitism without citing evidence. Some of the UNRWA staff members have been accused by Israel of involvement in the October 7 Hamas attack. The UN, acting swiftly on the allegations, on January 27th, terminated 9 out of 12 accused staff and vowed to launch a probe, but the UN body has also expressed its shock at the swift funding cut by several Western countries amid a humanitarian disaster in Gaza, which has been devastated by nearly 4 months of Israel's aerial and ground war. Details about the latest Israeli allegations have not been made clear, but reports in the media citing Israeli intelligence documents suggest UNRWA vehicles and facilities may have been used for the attack, in which Hamas gunmen killed around 1,200 people and took another 240 hostage, some of whom were released during a brief truce last year. The Israeli dossier alleges that some 190 UNRWA employees, including teachers, have double-listed Hamas or Islamic Jihad fighters, as per a Reuters news agency report. The findings detailed in the document could not be independently confirmed. The Israeli document listed 12 people, their alleged roles in the October 7 attack, job descriptions, and photos. The dossier said of the 12 workers, 9 were teachers and 1 was a social worker. 7 of the employees were accused of crossing into Israel on October 7. Of those, 1 was accused of taking part in a kidnapping, another of helping to abduct the body of a dead soldier, and 3 others of participating in the attacks. Apart from the details published in the media citing the allegedly leaked Israeli dossier, the UN hasn't received any evidence directly from the Israeli authorities to substantiate the claims.
Seen this reference to a dossier. We saw it in the Times, in the Wall Street Journal, in CBS. I'm not going to name all the media organizations, but we respect them all. That information has not been given to us officially by the Israeli authorities.
The agency is funded almost entirely by voluntary contributions apart from a limited subsidy from the UN, which is used exclusively for administrative costs, according to UNRWA. In 2022, 44.3% of the agency's total pledges, or $1.17 billion, came from the EU member states, who contributed $520.3 million, including funds allocated by the institution via the European Commission. The United States, Germany, the EU, and Sweden were the largest individual donors in the year, contributing 61.4% of the agency's overall funding in total. Around 17 nations, including the United States, Canada, European Union, the UK, Germany, France, Japan, Australia, Finland, Switzerland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Iceland, Romania, Estonia, and Austria have suspended funding. Meanwhile, a minority of Western nations like Ireland, Norway, Spain, Luxembourg have spoken out against the funding cuts and said they would keep funding UNRWA while demanding an investigation into Israel's charges. In several posts on X, Norway's representative office to Palestine explained why the country will keep funding the agency in the face of cuts by Israel's Western allies. Norway said, "Reports that UNRWA staff were involved in the attacks on Israel on 7 October are deeply disturbing, and if true, completely unacceptable. Norway welcomes UNRWA's investigation into the matter. We expect full transparency. We need to distinguish between what individuals may have done and what UNRWA stands for. The organization's tens of thousands of employees in Gaza, the West Bank, and the region are playing a crucial role in distributing aid, saving lives, and safeguarding basic needs and rights. The situation in Gaza is catastrophic, and UNRWA is the most important humanitarian organization there. Norway continues our support for the Palestinian people through UNRWA. International support for Palestine is needed now more than ever." Chris Gunness, a former UNRWA spokesman, told Al Jazeera that the UN agency has weeks only before it runs out of money for its crucial aid work to save Palestinian lives in Gaza. Similar sentiments were echoed by Stéphane Dujarric, spokesperson for UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
The Secretary General is personally horrified by the accusations against employees of UNRWA, but his message to donors, especially those who have suspended their contribution, is to at least guarantee the continuity of UNRWA's operations, as we have tens of thousands of dedicated staff working throughout the region. No other organization than UNRWA has the infrastructure to do the work that they do. It's not as if anyone else can come in tomorrow and do the work that they do. I mean, I've seen a lot of discussions. That's just not feasible in any way, shape, or form.
UNRWA chief Philip Lassarini condemned the freezing of funds at a time when famine looms in Gaza. He said, "Palestinians in Gaza did not need this additional collective punishment. This stains all of us." Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, said in a post on X, "The day after ICG concluded that Israel is plausibly committing genocide in Gaza, some states decided to defund UNRWA, collectively punishing millions of Palestinians at the most critical time, and most likely violating their obligations under the Genocide Convention." Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres on January 30 held a meeting with key donors to UNRWA to discuss the fallout from accusations against the body. Before attending the meeting, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, the permanent representative to the United Nations of the U.S., one of the biggest donors of UNRWA, acknowledged the importance of the agency's work in war-ravaged Gaza and indicated that funding could be restored depending on the agency's investigation and subsequent actions.
We need to see fundamental changes before we can resume providing funding directly to UNRWA. And as you know, we shouldn't let that cloud the great work that UNRWA does. UNRWA has provided essential humanitarian assistance to the Palestinian people, and UNRWA is the only organization on the ground that has the capacity to continue to provide that assistance. And their personnel have done extraordinary work. They've literally saved thousands of lives.
As UNRWA faces an uncertain future so far as donations are concerned, so do the Palestinians living in the war-torn Gaza, who depend on aid to survive Israel's relentless assault.